The leaked labs controversy. It's not really about eyeshadow. It is not really about the lipstick lesbians. What it's actually about is what happens when a brand breaks fundamental rules of consumer trust all in one launch window. For anybody who needs context, Leak Labs is a brand launched by the lipstick lesbians, Alexis and Dr. Christina Bezias Androulakis. Built around the concept of giving consumers access to unfinished, prototype stage beauty products. The consumer purchases the products, tests it, and provides feedback. That feedback, in theory, shapes the final product. Their first launch was on Friday, March 6th of 2026 with the Amplify Flexi Powder Discs. I have three videos on their entire launch and breaking down everything that has happened during that. So there were 4 Amplify Flexi discs that came in a lab sample, and they were charging $34 for these lab samples plus shipping. So consequently, $40 in total-ish, depending on how much you were paying for shipping. It sold out, and then almost immediately, the questions started coming. So there were 5 specific things that this controversy has put on the table for every beauty brand, every beauty consumer, and everybody in general needs to understand. So we're going to go through them one at a time. Lesson 1 that this launch taught us. This is one from a marketing and an industry standpoint, and it's arguably the most foundational lesson that we learned through the entire Leaked Labs launch, through the controversy, and through everything. Research and development in the beauty industry, when it is properly done, is an in-house function completely funded by the brand. It is not funded by consumers. Brands will employ chemists, product developers, and formulators. Then they build R&D teams. And then those teams need consumer feedback on that prototype before the product is anywhere near ready for retail. And they recruit focus group participation, and they either pay them or give them free product to test it, but they never make the person in that focus group pay for the product to test it. So they compensate people who are participating in these focus groups. They compensate them for not only their time, but also their feedback. That is the standard in the beauty industry. That's how it has always worked when it has been done properly. That is the baseline expectation of formulating a new product. It's the baseline expectation of the relationship between the brand and the consumer who is asked to evaluate an unfinished product. But what Leaked Labs did, whether it was intentional or not, I've had a lot of comments on that. We have to look at what happened in practice. It was actually an inverted model of how R&D and focus groups are done. The consumer had to pay for the product to test it and leave feedback, and the brand was not compensating them in any way. The tester funded the test, not the brand. The brand has actually framed this as democratizing the development process, giving the consumer a seat at the table, drawing back the curtain and looking. The framing is not without appeal. People want to be involved in that process because they want to be able to have their voice heard. However, the framing and financial structure are 2 different things, and we have to examine both. You cannot position paying customers as participants in a process that has historically always compensated its participants and then be surprised when people notice the difference. I've had so many comments on my YouTube videos regarding the whole Leaked Labs controversy of people who have been involved in those focus groups, and they have never had to pay to be a part of that focus group. They have been compensated by the brand and given the product by the brand to test and give their feedback. So let's look at lesson number 2. This one required me to do some digging, and it was something that I discussed about in one of my Leaked Labs videos, and it all had to do with their terms of service on their website. One of the defenses that circulated was that Leaked Labs, their term of service was not unusual, that it was widely being used, and that Sephora does have something similar, as well as Ulta. So I looked at it. I looked at all of this. I looked at Leaked Labs' terms of service, I looked at Sephora's terms of service, and I looked at Ulta Beauty's terms of service. And while they are very similar in verbiage, the language, yes, it's used in their terms of service across these two retailers, and one is an actual makeup brand. But there is a critical differentiator between Sephora, Ulta, and Leaked Labs that I had to make note of. And this is where I get a little bit worked up about this entire situation, because Sephora and Ulta are retailers. When you go to Sephora or Ulta for that matter, you are leaving feedback on their website on a completely finished product, a product that has been through every single test, every single R&D, that has been reformulated, that has been confirmed with packaging, that is being sold to the consumer as a finished product. This is something that the brand, for sure, is not going to be making alterations or changes to, because reformulations cost a lot of money. This is a final product. And do you know how much it costs to reformulate a product? I actually went over this in the Urban Decay All-Nighter Setting Spray issue, and basically the times that they really reformulate is if they find that, ingredients are getting banned, or they're, in Urban Decay's case, they ended their contract with Scandinavia and had to reformulate. We had a reformulation with Estee Lauder and their Double Wear foundation, and they had to reformulate because of EU regulations. Reformulations are not done at the drop of a hat. It is not whimsy. It is not sporadic. It is a planned reformulation. If something is going on with that product, they 100% have to reformulate. Brands don't like reformulating. We talk about significant capital investments. Reformulation means returning to the lab, retesting it, running safety assessments, doing all the R&D all over again, doing all the regulations, and then no brand is going to want to reformulate based on a couple of one-star reviews on their finished product on Sephora and Ulta. The feedback for this purpose of Sephora and Ulta, it is with a finished product, and it is from marketing intelligence, not marketing development. There's the key difference right there. When Leaked Labs have you leaving feedback on their website, it is for development of that product. It is not for marketing insight. So Leaked Labs explicitly asks for feedback on an unfinished product. This product is a sample, and it is not completely finished. It is one that of the brand's own design. It is still in development. It is still going through the R&D process. Alexis has even confirmed herself that she is actually making changes to the formulation of the flexi powders already. The feedback that Leaked Labs is actually intaking and collecting, it is meant to shape what the product becomes. That is a functionally different relationship to a review that is left on Sephora and Ulta. All three of these have the same terms of service language, yes, but completely different contexts. And I had to point this out because the difference, it definitely matters in this instance. Lesson 3. So this one moves from brand strategy to federal regulation territory, which, if you know anything about this channel, you know that I do not tread lightly on these sorts of things. I do have a knowledge of the FTC and the FCC because I have a communications degree. The FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, has clear guidelines when it comes to endorsements and testimonials. If you receive a product as a gift from a brand, or if you receive any form of material benefit in exchange for coverage, you are required to disclose that. It is not optional. It is not a courtesy. It is a legal requirement. Okay, and now this is why this goes hand in hand with this entire leaked labs controversy, because there were people who were being sent PR boxes, which I was so surprised at because I didn't think that they were going to be sent PR boxes. And those people did not disclose that they had been gifted the product. A number of creators had received the leaked labs PR box. Like I said, I didn't even know that they were sending out a PR box. Like, if you're sending out lab samples and you're sending it out for free to those people, you should have made it available for free for everybody, but I digress. That's a whole other topic. But people who did receive it, some did not disclose that it was gifted to them in PR. But what makes this situation particularly identifiable, what gives us the evidence we need to establish that a product was a PR send, is what was accompanied with it.
Opinions as usual, and I'll talk about this from more of an objective angle because that is how I review all my products that I evaluate. I'm loving the shredded paper. It's giving investigation. We have the product description and the ingredient story here. The product, a mixing palette.
The normal packaging that Leaked Lab sent to the paying customers was just a lab sample in a bag. But when they sent the PR package, they didn't just send the product, they sent tools along to help the creator use the product. They sent the entire Leaked Labs experience, essentially, to those who received PR. You received a branded foundation palette from what I saw in those videos. You also received an insert explaining what the product was, some additional items that were curated to communicate brand identity, and that curation is a signature. It tells us that was a brand coordinated send, not a consumer purchase. There was definitely more thought out in these PR packages than what they did with just the lab samples that they sent to their paying customers. And when you see the foundation plate in an unboxing, when you see all these extra things of somebody testing out the new Leaked Labs Amplify Flexi Powder, that is a key indicator that they received it in PR as a gift, and a lot of people were not disclosing it. It's a compliance failure on the part of the creators that they did not disclose that these were gifted to them. Whether it was intentional or maybe just an oversight, which I'm going to guess probably a little bit of an oversight because this is a lab sample and they didn't think that they needed to share it. I really don't know the thinking behind it, but the FTC doesn't distinguish anything between the two when it comes to enforcement. You have to disclose, even when you're receiving PR for a lab sample, that it was gifted to you. Any creator who potentially received PR from Leaked Labs is supposed to disclose it. And there were some shout outs that Erin Parsons may have received PR, and Brittany Clark was talking about this on her TikTok, how she may have received PR and did not disclose it.
This part, but something we have come across several different times on social media is not disclosing properly. Some people may not realize that also goes for items that were gifted to you. And since Leak Labs has yet to address the State of the Union because they messed up, the brand stated you're paying to participate in this process, and the brand it chose to include Erin Parsons in that. I've got no problem with PR. I think for Leak Labs it doesn't make sense, but this is the problem when you're not addressing concerns appropriately, like your customer feedback. You're just digging a hole deeper for not only you to get more criticism, but now also you're involving other people, because if this was gifted, why was that not disclosed? Full disclosure, I like Erin Parsons. I think she did a really great video, but I could also see where she probably didn't pay for it.
And she did a review of the product. Now, I love Erin Parsons. I think she's a genius when it comes to makeup, but any influencer who received that product as a gift, they need to disclose it. Let's look at lesson number 4. This is one I want to be careful with because I'm offering a professional marketing opinion here, and I want to be clear that that's exactly what it is. This is a marketing opinion for lesson 4. When consumer feedback turns like very angry, very critical, what a brand is receiving is significant. Feedback in the good or the bad is good to learn about what needs to change and what makes sense for the brand and how they can fix whatever it is that's broken. But There are frameworks that have been helped, like they have been established in public relations that help you address these types of situations in a professional manner. And what does not work is coming onto camera, saying a State of the Union address, getting very defensive and defending every single thing that you have done with this product instead of acknowledging what people are saying, taking in that feedback, and essentially making the product better. That was the whole point of their feedback system, was that they wanted to know the good, bad, and the ugly. And then at the end of the day, the lipstick lesbians come on their TikTok, they come on their Instagram reels, and they're like, this is our State of the Union. You're not working for us. You're not doing the job for us. This is what we gave you. Accept it, girl. Like, move on. And that's what they did. The State of the Union address, I have to get this verbiage from my notes because it's very important. It's a format that communicates, I am the authority here. I am briefing you. You are the audience receiving this information. That top-down posture, when deployed in response to consumer frustration, reads as dismissive. It communicates that the feedback has been heard, but the brand's position is superior to it. And that is something that everybody was saying when they saw the State of the Union address. It did not go over well at all. In my personal, humble opinion, in my marketing brain, in my marketing, when people receive communication like that, what does that convey to them? The reception is going to be negative, and very categorically negative at that. This is about how the response was formulated, about the way that it was dispersed. You cannot address a consumer trust issue by reminding your customers of your authority. That is the opposite of building trust. This is the biggest lesson from a marketing standpoint. Becoming defensive about feedback is not received well by people who have paid for your product. That is not an opinion. This is consumer behavior data, and I have seen it in my comments. I've seen it in the comments of Leaked Labs. This is the truth. Being defensive is not received well, specifically by your consumers. The format of your response communicates as much as the content. Choose the wrong format, and it doesn't matter what you say. A lot of people lost trust in Leaked Labs when they saw the State of the Union address, this holier than thou attitude, and they did not receive it well, and they still have not been receiving anything well since Leaked Labs has posted on their social media platforms. It all backfired, 100%, just backfired. Now let's talk about lesson 5. This is the last lesson that I wanted to review. This one applies before a brand ever launches a single product. And I have mentioned this before. I mentioned it in my exposing what they're hiding video. Before you bring anything to market, before you decide to even develop a product, you need to have the branding there, the voice, the communication, what the brand is about, and stick to that communication and not stray from it at all. You need to make sure that your messaging is airtight, that it is consistent, that it is precise. What we observed with Leaked Labs is a very huge pattern. I will link the video in the description box and down below so that you guys can see the inconsistency between all of their messaging and their comments versus their marketing versus, messaging that was done later on. This is all inconsistency that has compounded over time for the brand, which has also further led to lack of trust with the consumer. Not only did we get the State of the Union address, but we also got a whole bunch of inconsistency when it came to Leaked Labs giving us more information about what is going on with the brand and with the product. One minute they're saying this is a lab sample. One minute they're saying it's not a lab sample. But in their marketing, they say it's a lab sample. In journalism, and I will bring this back to the first principles of journalism, is consistency. And when you have inconsistency in a source's account in one of the primary markers we use to evaluate credibility, because that's what you need when you write a story, is somebody's credibility. If you can't trust their credibility, then the whole story is a wash. When a source's story keeps changing, we note it. They lose credibility. They lose trust. Consumers do the same thing. They see inconsistency between comments and messaging and marketing and reels and everything that's coming out and being pushed towards you at the same time, but you see the inconsistency and we lose trust. We lose our faith that you have credibility in what you're talking about. And credibility, once it is spent, it can't be rebounded by a State of the Union address or talking to the person who formulated the product and is giving you half-baked jargon about the product. Branding is a contract. Every inconsistency is a breach and consumers are watching the receipts. I had a whole bunch of receipts in that video. There was like 6 or 7 receipts, and that's just what I caught. Okay, there's been more. I know there has been. So what does the leaked labs controversy actually teach us? Okay, it teaches us that the financial structure of your model will always be examined through the lens of an industry standard. Is it industry standard to participate and pay to be part of the R&D process, or is it industry standard for the company to compensate you to be a part of the R&D process? A terms of service comparison only holds if the context is actually comparable. Sephora and Ulta versus leaked labs. The FTC disclosure is a legal floor, not a courtesy. Also, how you respond to a consumer criticism isn't as important, and it's actually more important than when you respond than what you respond with. And branding inconsistency is not a major inconvenience, it's a strategic liability. These are not new lessons. People put these into practice all the time when they launch new brands. They are lessons that the beauty industry has demonstrated repeatedly for a long time. Leaked Labs is the most recent case study for this type of controversy. Whether the brand corrects course or the model proves itself over time, we're going to continue to watch what is happening with Leaked Labs behind the scenes. If you have found this analysis useful, make sure that you are subscribed to my channel because I do a lot of audits of brands, forensic audits, journalistic deep dives, marketing lenses on what the beauty space is doing and what is happening in the beauty space. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, what you thought about this entire analysis. Which of these 5 lessons do you think brands most consistently fail to learn? And I hope I get to see you in my next video. Bye!